NASA sent the Curiosity rover to Mars to see if the red planet could have supported life, and the answer today is a resounding yes.
Boris Kipriyanovich has captured the world's attention from a young age due to his exceptional intelligence and controversial statements about a previous life on Mars. Born in Russia in 1996, he showed remarkable cognitive abilities and a complex understanding of astronomy and ancient civilizations early on. Yet, what truly sets him apart are his vivid stories about life on Mars, claiming, "I had some friends on Mars for sure, and on some other planets as well." His tales of Martian existence have stirred diverse opinions, turning him into a mysterious and thought-provoking figure. Boriska's ability to challenge the limits of human comprehension and explore cosmic possibilities adds an intriguing layer to his already fascinating narrative. Number 1. His early life and development. Boris Kipriyanovich is lovingly known as Boriska within his family and friends. This amazing kid from Volgograd, Russia, caught everyone's attention right from the start. Just 15 days after being born, he surprised everyone by lifting his head all by himself. Normally, babies take months to do that, but not Boriska. At just 1.5 years old, Boriska was already reading, way ahead of what kids his age usually do. And get this, at 2 years old he taught himself how to draw. But we're not talking about simple doodles, no way. Boriska was creating stunning shapes and patterns that amazed everyone around him. His parents knew he was different, so they took him to doctors and experts to figure out just how special he was. When he was in preschool, Boriska blew everyone's mind. He talked about big things like space, physics, and history, things even grown-ups find tricky. His words were way beyond what you'd expect from a little kid. He could even spot mistakes in textbooks and correct them. People started talking about him. And soon, teachers and researchers were doing tests to see just how smart he was. Turns out, he was a prodigy, an extremely smart kid. But here's where it gets really interesting. Boriska claimed he used to live on Mars in his past life. Yes, at just 4 years old, he was talking about being a pilot from Mars. And he knew a ton about space travel and other planets. It wasn't just made-up stories. He went into crazy details that had experts scratching their heads. Some people didn't believe him, thinking he was making things up. Others saw him as a messenger, telling us that there's more to life than just Earth. Whether you think Boriska lived on Mars or not, one thing's for sure. He's an amazing kid who's shaking up what we thought was possible for humans. Now, imagine his knowledge of astronomy. Number 2. A special interest in astronomy. Boris Kipriyanovich didn't just kind of like astronomy. He loved it big time. This love for space stuff wasn't something he picked up randomly. It was more like an extremely strong feeling he had right from when he was a little kid. He didn't just understand astronomy a little. He was stunningly good at it, even better than some experts. Talking about planets, stars, and how the universe works wasn't just chatting for him. It was like being in his special world. One interesting moment happened when Boris was only 6 years old. Imagine this. There was a meeting about learning, and he challenged an exceptional professor on how long a space event would last. At first, nobody believed him, but then the professor had to admit Boris was right. Imagine a kid telling an outstanding adult they got the space stuff wrong. That's exactly what happened. But Boris wasn't just about what's written in boring textbooks. Nope. He knew stuff that scientists are still figuring out. He could talk about different kinds of spacecraft, how they move, what gases are in different planet atmospheres, and even whether there might be life on other planets. People weren't just amazed at how much he knew. They were blown away by how detailed and specific he got. Here's the mind-blowing part. Boris said he didn't learn all this from books or school. Nope. He claimed he had these memories from when he lived on Mars in a past life. Now, scientists didn't buy that story, but they couldn't ignore the astonishing details he shared. Even the folks who didn't believe him had to admit he was way ahead of his time. And get this, Boris wasn't just a space nerd. He thought about the big, deep questions too. He wondered about the universe, black holes, and even what God might be like in space. For him, it wasn't just about science. It was like using astronomy to figure out the big mysteries of life. People had mixed feelings about Boris. Some were totally on board with his amazing talents and thought maybe he came from another world. Others thought maybe he just read a lot of really hard books when he was a tiny kid. Either way, everyone had to agree. This kid knew his space stuff, and he knew it well. Number 3. His interest in public and scientific. When Boris Kipriyanovich became famous, people couldn't believe their eyes. He wasn't just a great kid. He was like a mystery waiting to be solved. Scientists and brain experts got extremely interested in him. This kid not only rocked at school, but also challenged grown-ups on extremely hard topics. That's Boris for you. First, the brain people, or psychologists, wanted to figure out how Boris thought. They gave him all kinds of tests, like puzzles and memory games. Guess what? Boris aced them all. His brain worked outstandingly. Most kids of his age just remembered things, but Boris? He understood tricky ideas without having to memorize them. It was like his brain had amazing powers. But it wasn't just the brain experts who got curious. When Boris talks about past lives on Mars and knowing tons about space, this caught the attention of space scientists, physicists, and even deep thinkers in philosophy. They all wanted to know, is Boris onto something big, or is he just making things up? Despite some people not believing him, Boris knew his things so well that it got everyone talking. Even the media, the journalists who share news, couldn't get enough of his story. Articles, interviews, and documentaries started popping up. People either thought Boris was an interesting puzzle to solve, or that he was making up crazy stories. Either way, everyone wanted to know more about this mysterious kid. And guess what? Social media, the place where everyone connects online, played a big role too. Videos of Boris explaining hard science ideas went viral, meaning they spread like wildfire. People on the internet couldn't stop talking about him. Some thought he was a genius from the past, while others wondered if he was an alien. These online places became a hotbed for discussions, arguments, and sometimes even fights about Boris and his wild ideas. Number 4. The Mars revelation. Imagine sitting in a room, and suddenly, everything changes. That's what happened when Boris calmly said, "I am from Mars." It wasn't a game or pretend. He said it seriously, like a lightning bolt in the air. Even his family, used to his amazing skills and odd habits, were completely surprised. They thought they knew all about him, but this was a whole new level. At first, Boris's parents are confused, thinking he's using his wild imagination again. But then he starts talking, sharing super detailed info about life on Mars, space travel, and even how other planets' politics work. His family goes from disbelief to intense curiosity and a bit of worry. A little kid is talking about things like he remembers them from another life. Boris's friends, unaware of his abilities, react differently. Some think it's a big joke, Boris going too far. Others, especially those who've seen his outstanding side, take it more seriously. Though they don't fully understand, Boris's voice and eyes leave them feeling puzzled. Even teachers, while not fully convinced, can't ignore Boris's seriousness. Extended family members have mixed feelings. Some see it as a creative kid's idea, while others worry about encouraging such thoughts. The talk about past lives and coming back to life adds another layer of confusion. As the news spreads beyond family and friends, everyone has something to say. Believers in spiritual things see Boris as proof of ideas about being born again and life beyond Earth. Doubters view it as a wild story with no real proof, just a kid's imagination blown up by curious adults. Regardless of opinions, Boris talking about being from Mars sparks conversations about what humans truly know and understand. It's like a big mystery that makes everyone ponder the limits of our knowledge. Number 5. Outstanding children, the Indigo Concept. In the world of New Age ideas and special powers, the term indigo children is like a mysterious puzzle. Coined in the 1970s, it suggests that some special kids are born with unique aura colors and amazing abilities, destined to bring big changes. Boris Kipriyanovich is often seen as a poster child for indigo children. His tremendous skills in things like astronomy, and even his talk about Mars, match what people think indigo kids are like. The big question isn't really if Boris is exactly one of them, but what this label means for kids who stand out. Boris shook things up when he said he's from Mars. Some thought it was just a kid's wild idea, but others saw it as proof of his indigo nature. According to these New Age ideas, indigo kids, like Boris, aren't stuck with the same limits as everyone else. They say these kids have immense wisdom from past lives, maybe even lives beyond Earth. If you believe this, Boris talking about being from Mars isn't so crazy, it's kind of expected. Being linked to the indigo idea has two sides for Boris.
Some doctors say the kids have shown symptoms of attention deficit disorder, not psychic powers. Tonight, CNN's Gary Tuckman introduces you to some of the so-called indigo children.
On one hand, it makes him super special to those who buy into the indigo thing. They see him as living proof of a new age coming. On the other hand, some scientists and doubters use the indigo label to say Boris is just caught up in a weird new age trend, and his talents are just quirks. Even with all the criticism, the indigo kid idea is catching on, sparking debates beyond just the new age crowd. People, including psychologists and scientists, are curious about Boris, even if they raise an eyebrow at the indigo label. His story is like a puzzle, and everyone's trying to figure out what makes him tick. Number 6. The Martian Civilization. When Boris said he was from Mars, it was like opening a super mysterious box that couldn't be closed easily. His stories about life on Mars went from making people laugh to making them unbelievably curious. According to Boris, Martian civilization wasn't just super advanced, it was way better than Earth in many ways. He described cities with tall buildings under big domes that kept the air just right, even though Mars has a tough climate. These cities were all connected by tunnels like a big network, making travel fast. Boris said Martians lived kind of like us, but way more connected and spiritual. They could live for hundreds of Earth years, gathering wisdom and knowledge. When it comes to tech stuff, Boris took it to a whole new level. He talked about spaceships, or as he called them, interstellar dropships, zooming through space extremely fast. These ships ran on energy sources we don't even know about, making them almost limitless. But here's where it gets wild. Boris said Martian medicine was so advanced that they hardly had any diseases. And then there's the controversial part, Martian wars. Boris claimed there were lots of fights, not just over land, but big battles about ideas that shook Martian society. These wars used crazy weapons that used natural things to destroy stuff, like leveling whole cities. What's interesting is that Boris said Martians saw war as a last resort and a failure. After a fight, they'd take time to think and grow spiritually, seeing it as a sad thing rather than a victory. Number 7. Saving humanity from nuclear destruction. Boriska, the incredible 11-year-old with a deep understanding of space, amazed scientists worldwide in 2017 with a viral video. In his fascinating story, Boriska claimed he was once a Martian and now lives as a human. He worriedly shared that Martians faced extinction from a nuclear war 1,000 years ago, and he fears Earth might face the same danger. Boriska passionately warned that urgent action is needed to save Earth, as he believes we're on a perilous path. He emphasized that he was sent on a mission to protect humanity. His tale unfolds with memories of being a Martian pilot, describing a catastrophic nuclear war and his journey from Mars to Earth. Boriska revealed surviving Martians are working hard to rebuild their civilization, creating advanced weapons for defense. What makes this story even more interesting is Boriska's claim that Martians age up to 35 years, keeping their looks until they pass away. This captivating narrative raises questions and sparks imaginations about a potential connection between our worlds. Do you think this kind of being exists? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.